This is Law of Attraction Explored. I'm Tim Grimes. If you'd like a free guide that explains the hidden link between relaxation and the law of attraction, or if you want more information about my books or my coaching, you can visit radicalcounselor.com. Enjoy the episode. So today I thought we could have a nice meditative episode and look a little bit more at the teachings of Joel Goldsmith. Goldsmith, as I mentioned, is somebody that I've really enjoyed reading and contemplating his teachings the last several months. And I really think that Goldsmith gives one of the better explanations of how to utilize the so-called absolute method, or what H. Emily Cady liked to call trustful passivity, or what Emmett Fox called the golden key, which Fox simply said was to stop thinking of your problems and think of God instead. This focus on God, on the perfection that is God, can transform our lives in a practical way. And what has always interested me about so many of these new thought teachings is that they have this articulate, beautiful, spiritual language talking about God, but then it's often based upon very practical applications that we utilize it for. Theory in and of itself, when it comes to this new thought and law of attraction stuff, frankly doesn't really interest me much. If I want to hear spiritual theory, there's probably other places I would turn. And at this point in my life, like I know probably many of you, you're sick of hearing spiritual theory. You want to hear, how can I apply these very interesting spiritual ideas directly into my life to practically improve it for myself and others? And again, that's where we can come back to somebody like Goldsmith, who explains this so well. Goldsmith is probably best known for his book and the teachings that follow. The book, I believe it might be his first book he wrote, his most famous book. It's called The Infinite Way. And I'm going to read a passage today that really describes how we can use this absolute method. And not just use it in our normal sense of the word, but appreciate the absolute method. Appreciate the golden key. And see our lives and the lives of others benefit from doing so. So this excerpt is from The Infinite Way. Goldsmith writes, "There is a belief of separation between us and God, our good, and this we correct by realizing, I and my Father are one. All that the Father has is mine. The place whereon I stand is holy ground. In the recognition of the infinity of our being, we realize the truth of the Bible. We realize the truth of these promises. They are no longer quotations, but statements of fact. And that brings us to the point of demarcation between knowing the truth and taking no thought. We are realizing truth now as an established truth within our own consciousness, the truth of our being. We are not taking thought to make any good come to us. We are not giving ourselves a treatment to make something happen to us. But we are realizing the truth, knowing the truth of our own identity, of our oneness with the infinite, with our infinite capacities. The reason for realizing and knowing this truth is that through the ages we have come to be known as man, as something other than God being. And unless we now consciously and daily remind ourselves of the true nature of our being, we will come under the general belief that we are something separate and apart from God. There is a belief that we are separate from some people who are really a part of our completeness, a belief that we are separate or apart from certain spiritual ideas necessary to our fulfillment, which may appear as persons, papers, home, companionship, opportunity. This belief of separation we correct by realizing that our oneness with God constitutes our oneness with every idea. Illustrative of this is the telephone. Through my telephone, I can reach any other telephone any place in the world, but I cannot reach even my next door neighbor by telephone without first going through the central station. Then, by establishing my oneness with central, I am one with every telephone. In our realization of our oneness with God, infinite principle, love, we find and manifest our oneness with every idea necessary to the unfoldment of our completeness. Never forget that you cannot live scientifically as man or idea, but that you must realize yourself to be life, truth, and love. You must accept Jesus' revelation of the I am until it becomes realization with you. Stop trying to apply truth. Attempting to apply truth is the action of the human thought. Truth is infinite, therefore there is nothing to which you can apply truth. It is the reality of being, and there is nothing inside or outside for truth to act upon. Truth is self-acting and self-operative. We are all engaged in activities through which our supply appears to come. Regardless of whether it is a business, a profession, or an art, it is an activity of consciousness. So regarded, our activity is intelligently and lovingly directed and sustained. It is even more than this. As an emanation of consciousness, it is consciousness itself individually appearing and expressing its own being, nature, and character. The government is upon its shoulder, and consciousness alone is responsible. We learn to let go and let God, consciousness, assume its responsibilities. A few paragraphs later, Goldsmith writes, "In an individual way, God is expressing itself as you, and your ability is really the ability of God. Your activity is actually the activity of consciousness, life, and therefore the responsibility for you is God's responsibility. Gain this consciousness of God's presence, and you have the whole secret of success in every walk of life." So those are some very powerful passages from Goldsmith, from The Infinite Way. And I think just a wonderful way to approach the absolute method, or to approach this from a deeply spiritual angle that feels true to us. That's why I say we don't use this technique in the normal sense we look at using something. We recognize what is, and what is fulfills us and provides us what we need in the given moment. The contemplation of God, the recognition of God right now in this very moment is always salvation. If we look at this through the absolute method or applying it in such a way. But again, this isn't something that we apply as much as something that we are, and we just recognize what we are. As Goldsmith said, stop trying to apply truth. Attempting to apply truth is the action of the human thought. Truth is infinite, therefore there is nothing to which you can apply truth. Earlier on, he said, we are not taking thought to make any good come to us. We are not giving ourselves a treatment to make something happen to us, but we are realizing the truth, knowing the truth of our own identity, of our oneness with the infinite, with our infinite capacities. This is just very, very powerful. And it's the reason that I constantly talk about becoming okay with this moment, becoming present with this moment. Because when we become present with this moment, even if physically we feel bad, even if mentally our thoughts are all over the place, even if we're worried mentally about so many things, when we become present in this moment and feel okay being in this moment, we are one with God. Again, as Goldsmith said, in an individual way, God is expressing itself as you, and your ability is really the ability of God. Your activity is actually the activity of consciousness, life, and therefore the responsibility for you is God's responsibility. Gain this consciousness of God's presence, and you have the whole secret of success in every walk of life. When we become one with God, which we always really are, there's no problems.